Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to thank all of our witnesses for taking time to come and testify before the committee today. And I'm going to say for the companies, the businesses, the employers in my district, in Iowa, the 2nd District of Iowa, they were tremendously appreciative when the government closed down their businesses and their business had the potential to fail and never come back. Not from their own poor planning or poor execution or poor savings, but because the government shut them down. They were tremendously appreciative of the PPP program, how it was administered, that it was administered through their local banks, and it was what helped to save them through the pandemic and to come back and to be part of the strong economy in Iowa today. So I'd like to take a brief moment to discuss the actual rates of fraud in the programs we're discussing today. And so, Mr. Ware, what was the fraud rate in the PPP program?
Thank you for your question. The fraud rate in the PPP program is not something that we have calculated yet. What you saw at the onset was a report that raised immediate awareness that we had an issue, and that was where the $4.7 billion came from in PPP. Once we identified that we had issues, we pivoted into making SBA raise the controls in order to prevent more upfront, because we realized the pay and chase model that would be necessary afterward would not be effective. So we spun into identifying real fraud in terms of our casework and everything else. I said earlier that we're nowhere near understanding what the full amount is.
I thought the fraud rate was 0.6%. That was my understanding. So I could see that you put in roadblocks and guardrails. Are you aware of the improper payment estimates for the pandemic unemployment insurance program?
Yes, I do.
And that's,
yes, I am.
And what's the rate there?
The rate there is like 18-point-something%.
Yeah,
but
18.71%. So 0.6% versus 18.71%. According to the Department of Labor Inspector General, this means that if you use the estimated $872.5 billion in pandemic unemployment insurance payments, at least $163 billion in pandemic UI payments benefits could have been paid improperly, with a significant portion attributable to fraud. Some of the states have reported on unemployment fraud, and it's jarring, the amounts we're talking about. For example, one man filed for unemployment in 40 states and received more than $222,000. Even more jarring are the investigations that have found a substantial amount of this fraud can be attributed to organized crime, including reports of up to 70% of the fraudulent money ended up in the hands of Russian, Chinese, and Nigerian nationals. So what we've seen perpetrated on the federal level is now the same criminal organizations targeting state governments and state benefit programs. Mr. Dotson, I'd like to ask you to discuss from your perspective what has been done and what can be done to combat this transnational criminal fraud now and in the future, knowing that it's targeted these federal programs and is looking at state programs where they may not have substantial guardrails.
Yes, Congresswoman, thank you for your question. Obviously, the Secret Service and our Cyber Fraud Task Forces regularly work transnational crime. And so this is nothing new to us. We are financial crimes investigating experts. So when we work these cases annually, we're kind of used to following the trail, the money trail. So we will follow that. We will continue to do that. We have some great relationships internationally with numerous countries that allow us to partner with them and identify transnational organized groups. And as I said earlier, we have several investigations, hundreds of investigations that involve transnational organized groups that I just can't talk to today, but I hope to, at a later time, bring more information to this committee. So we will continue to follow that money, recover as much as we can for the U.S. taxpayer, and bring those that have committed this fraud to justice as best we could.
And is there work with this technical assistance or training for states, especially where they interface with the federal government?
Yes, ma'am. So I talked about earlier our National Computer Forensics Institute in Hoover, Alabama. Countless federal, state, and local partners, primarily state and local partners, have received specialized training there. Technical training that includes for our forensic examiners. They are also issued special equipment in order to do those examinations. And it's such a great force multiplier for the Secret Service. It gives us additional thousands of extra investigators, detectives from our state and local departments that we can equip and then have them focus on these investigations along with us.
Thank you very much. I yield back my time.